You're listening to the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about how we game.
Hey, folks, welcome to the Beans and Dice Thursday night, but not a live show and not a call-in show.
You were scratching when you said Thursday night.
Kinda, right? So this is pre-recorded. It is Thanksgiving week. We do want to provide some content because I know y'all look forward to hearing from us on Thursday nights. We look forward to hearing from you. But if it's Thursday, Thanksgiving, here in the U.S. stateside, I'm probably full of turkey and pernil and all kinds of food. So I'm out. Like, I'm tapped. So that's why we're doing it just a little bit early, recording for you a little early and getting it going. But I'm one of your hosts. I'm Carlos.
I'm Rob.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Wayne.
And we're a podcast about how we game. Thursday nights, normally the live call-in show, but today we're going to give you, for your Thanksgiving enjoyment, as you digest your food, enjoy your time with your family, if you got a moment to, sit and chill and kind of catch up on what we've been up to, we want to talk to you about our top 5 wishlist games. So with the holidays happening right now, what games do we have on our wish list to show up under our tree for Christmas and the holidays? That's what we're talking about. So that's going to be the topic for today.
So I was going to say that, on Thursday night, if you're actually listening to this on Thursday night, we're providing you with an excuse to escape from the conversation at the dinner table.
Family stuff.
It's got a little one way or the other, and you're just like, I'm out.
Too political, too religious, too something. You got to get out of there.
Something. And you can make fun of our list, or, certainly please, if you're listening to this, comment on the YouTube video, comment on the podcast, tell us what games you want, tell us what games you thought were good on our list. We need that feedback on the YouTube and not just on Discord. Join us on Discord, talk about it there, but also, this is a pre-recorded event episode, so please, comment and like the video as you're watching it. Thank you.
I'd say tell us where we're wrong, but these are the games that we want under our trees or under our, whatever for the holidays. So we can't be wrong on this one, right? I mean, we're all right.
No, there is wrongness is allowed.
Wrong? Oh, okay, we can. The majority. If 3 of the 4 of us say it's wrong, it's wrong. Okay.
I'll just keep my mouth shut.
Now, there's a little methodology behind this. I think it's going to be very different for all of us.
Yeah.
Because this is it's not a very objective list. This is a very, very, very subjective list. And I'll just say it, with some, subversive motives, at least in my part. My hopes is, family listens or watches this episode. Instead of like grabbing that one thing they thought I would like, maybe look at these 5. I'm just saying.
I accidentally text out the link to the video by accident.
Oh, yeah? Watch this?
I don't know. I take a size Twilight Imperium.
Oh, yeah? Something like that. TI3 or TI4?
Now, my list, so my methodology, what I thought about when creating this list, it was hard to narrow this down because if you ask me what games I want, there's a lot.
Yeah, what don't you want? Yeah.
So first thing I wanted to do was ground myself in reality, like reality check, Carlos. Like your wish list needs to be something that is attainable, right? So that's kind of where I started my list. And then secondly, I mean, look, I don't have the wide angle camera on because Rob's not here, so it's just 3 versions of Carlos on the camera right now, kind of cut in. But if I want the game, it's here, and if it's not here and I really want it, I think Mike, we were talking about that before the show, it will be here if I really, really want it, right? So that's the hard part, because if it's something that I'm like super uber desiring, it will make its way here. So this list for me, guys, is more of I won't call it sub tier because it sounds mean, but it's not S tier. It's like just below S tier. Like S tier, I'm buying it, right? Like it's out, I'm buying it. This is the I want it, but I am a human and have a budget, so I can't get it right now. Okay. If the funds are a little bit plentiful, if it's a good month, things go right, that'll be the thing I scoop up, that level of game. Like I want it, but not enough to just outright buy it. That's how I came up with the list that I've made. Any thoughts on your list?
Well, I think we all agree that it had to be something that was currently available. Like it couldn't have been like I'd really like my Kickstarter that's supposed to deliver next year. I'd really like it this year. We can't do that.
I mean,
not with an attitude like that, you can't.
Yeah, make it happen.
Anna could bring it early, right?
Yeah, right. I happen to stick to only games, but I think a couple of us might have put like accessories in our list, which is totally fine. I got no problem with that. It's game related, and we want it under the Christmas tree when the time comes. So, but mine is stuff that's available, and like you said, I mean, typically if there's something that I want, I'm probably going to wind up getting it. So this list was a little hard for me. I'm pretty content with my game collection. And then, of course, I was looking at Rob's camera right before we're getting started. I was like, "Ooh, there's a game that I really want." You know, so
that
one. He would tell us what it was. I'm trying to figure out which one it is now.
Yeah, exactly.
So
pan around.
Anyway,
I think it's up over here.
Getting warm. So anyway, that was how I put my list together. So what about you guys?
I'll let Rob go last because I think he had more thought into this than the three of us.
All right. Maybe a little bit, but not by much. I assure you.
No, but so I'm similar to Mike, and I'm out of game space. So like I'm at the almost point where I'm limiting myself by the shelving. So it's like a game in, game out, or I really need to get rid of 30, 40 games before I get new. So it has to be a game that I kind of really want. So my wish list, I have an Amazon wish list, right, that I share with my family. The games I put on there are the ones that I really want, but I know that once I get it, I've got to kind of like maybe get rid of a game, right, or something like that. So there's a couple of those things. And then the other thing I've limited myself to is I'm really trying to break my habit of when I buy a game, I buy all the expansions, right? Because I'm notorious for that. And you rarely ever play expansions, right? You always play the base game, and then you teach a new group or new players, and you teach the base game, not the expansions. It's hard to play a game with all of these expansions, but if I get them as presents, then
right,
the first step, a little bit, right?
Or if there happens to be an early Black Friday sale, that's an all-in for a special deal, like I did yesterday.
Yeah.
You know,
and I'll say this: like, what's funny is that I work in education, so I'm actually off all this week, so I'm catching up on. I've been backtracked on my podcast 3 or 4 weeks, and I'm listening to 3 or 4 weeks worth of my podcast, catching up on them, and I actually have changed my list twice today based on podcasts I'm listening to, because I'm listening to some reviews of a game that are like, people are like, I don't know if it's really worth it. And I'm like, oh, maybe that's not my number one most wanted game anymore. Man. So we'll see. So I'm like, my list has changed considerably based on the hype or what I've heard from other groups about some recent games that came out. But so yeah,
I won't lie. My list has changed like 4 times today alone.
See, I tried to stay away from that because I knew that mine would if I started watching stuff. So I got my list, and then I was like, yesterday I finalized it. I was like, I'm not going to watch anything else. I'm not going to see anything else because I want to go tinker with my list. So I'm sure there's some things I missed. There's a few things you guys are going to mention. I'm like, oh crap, if I would have thought of that or whatever. But so just real quick, my methodology, there wasn't a whole lot of thought to it, but I wrote down 2 games right away. So when we talked about doing this a couple days ago, I wrote down 2 that I knew right off the top of my head. One of them was a pretty expensive, big Kickstarter. And so I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? I could fill in my other 3 probably with either really hard to find expensive games or like really big Kickstarters with all kinds of boxes and minis. I was like, I really don't want my list to be that. I want it to kind of be a little bit of a bunch of different things. So what I came up with is one of you in the chat had asked about, well, can we do expansions? And I was like, okay, well, there's a good idea. So I'm gonna do one expansion. So I kind of thought about it. I thought about what expansion I want the most. I did one big kind of money is no object game. That's, a big Kickstarter game. So I did that. I did a game on my list that I should own by now. So that was one of my 5. It's like, this is a game that I probably should have owned, but in this case, it just happens somebody in the group has it and I kind of have access to it. But this is a game I still want to get into my collection. It's one that I need to have in my collection. So I did one of those. I did a new game, a brand new game. I got Kickstarter that's just now kind of out there, that's just rolling out. So a brand new kind of thing. And then my 5th one I came up with is I decided a game that I was kind of waiting to see if anybody in the group was going to pick it up. It's a game that I know I like. I played it once at Dice Tower. I liked it quite a bit. And I was like, this is a game that I probably should have owned a long time ago. A lot of people probably thought I was going to buy it a long time ago, but I never did. I was kind of waiting either maybe to get it as a gift or for somebody in the group to get it so I'd have access to it. And it just never happened. So that's the 5th game that I put on my list. So I kind of decided on a little bit of a bunch of different little categories just to kind of sprinkle some things around. And I think as far as price range kind of thing as well, I mean, we kind of joked around before the show here that, hey, this is kind of hint. We could send this to some of our family and friends. Like, these are some things I want. Well, I cover some price range here. There's some things that are on the lower end. There's some things that are on the high end. So kind of covers all the bases. So that was kind of my thinking on it. So
Rob's trying to increase his chances of actually getting what's on his list here.
getting something on my list.
Something exactly.
But anyway, that was my thoughts. So, yeah.
Do we want to talk honorable mentions first, or save those for later?
I want to talk crossovers. How many crossovers do we think we're going to have?
You're welcome to talk. Oh,
Yeah.
I think there's at
Zero.
least 2 crossovers. 2.
At least how many?
2 crossovers.
Really?
2. Carlos says 0. I'm gonna say at least between.
I
all
say
4 of
0
us-
because it's such a wide pool that we're coming from. Right? This isn't. We're
Yeah.
not talking our best favorite rolling rights. We're not talking our favorite worker placements. This is just what's on your heart, right? I say 0.
I think 1, if that. Like, it's going to be a very iffy 1.
I'm gonna say maybe 2. And Wayne's saying 2. I'm gonna say maybe 2 crossovers between all of us. I mean, I don't think there'll be a 4-way crossover or anything like that. But I think between us all, there'll be a game that comes up on multiple lists, or 2 games that come up on more than one list. I think we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's talk honorable mentions.
All right. Yeah, I don't have any. I didn't write any down, so I'll throw that to you guys.
I have too many to think of.
Oh, really?
Too
2
many.
Give
minutes.
us your top 2 then. Come on.
The thing is I really narrowed this list down to what I think is feasible and on my current wish list, and I'm not going to buy it anytime soon. So
He's thinking about.
you know
it.
what?
Yeah.
Okay, Lord of the Rings, the living card game. It's currently on sale on
okay.
Amazon Prime
There
Day.
you go.
Like
That's
it's down
legitimate.
to like 30. It's down to $30, and I'm like,
Now, that's not the one that
the revised edition.
but that's not the one that Rob and
No.
and
No.
played-
Not the one
okay.
we played it. Yeah, that's what was that?
That's
The One
already-
Ring or whatever. Yeah,
One
but,
Ring.
That was
Okay,
the War of the Ring
War of the
Ring.
card
War of
game.
the Ring.
No, I already owned a copy of Lord of the Rings living card game,
Full
first
CD.
edition,
Yeah.
and I gave it away to a buddy of mine, John Vodder. I have no idea where you are, brother. It's been like decades since I've seen you, but
We played that a
he
few
has that
times.
copy.
before you gave it away.
Yeah, Rob and I played it. Fully cooperative, Lord of the Rings game based off of the similar Marvel Champions and the Arkham Horror LCG. I think Lord of the Rings was the first one of those, and then the Arkham, and then Champions, but similar
Maybe.
system.
Yeah.
So you want
they
the
revised it.
LCG for Lord of the Rings? Like the new one that just came out?
Yeah, they just redid it. Re-released
They
it.
revised it.
Revised
Same
well-
cards, same adventure. They just revised how they
Secret Santa
packaged
may
it.
send you something then.
Oh, making this little delivery. Yeah.
I mean, I
That's
did
why I'm
win
doing
the
this show.
expansion before I bought the base game, and I, had to buy the base game for it. So
Yeah.
I
Nice.
played it once. I'm not. It just isn't for me.
Not thrilled with it.
Really?
Yeah,
We'll talk after the show then.
we'll talk after the show, man.
All right, Mike. What's your honorable mentions?
Endeavor, Age of Sail,
Oh,
Yeah, up there.
right over your left shoulder. I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, I totally forgot about
Great
that.
game. Great game.
And the funny thing is like the first thing I did was I went to BGG and looked on my wish list, and and there's like maybe 1 or 2 games in there that I actually put on my list, and for some reason that game isn't on my list, and I've wanted that for a while now. So that's my honorable mention there.
Yeah, Wayne was
Right.
there for my fail regarding Endeavor. I thought I had scooped up a copy of Endeavor.
Oh,
I think it was $20. It was amazing. Found out it was the first edition.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a really old one that doesn't have the cool bits. But then I hit the jackpot going through the Dice Tower East flea market. I got a copy of Endeavor, the Kickstarter version, with
nice.
like all the little
the
mini
upgrades.
expansions and
Yeah.
all the promo packs.
man,
in
that's
it. And it,
that's hitting
for
the
like-
jackpot.
I think it was
40?
45.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
in the
40.
40s. So I remember I
40.
offered to trade you
Yeah.
my Endeavor copy
Right.
for yours.
Yeah.
And actually, what's
too.
funny is the score pad. The last game of the score pad was Z, Camilla, and I think Roy. played
Oh,
it.
awesome.
Yeah.
it was a Dice Towers copy of it. They got rid of it. So
Oh, very
yeah,
cool.
Rob has dibs on my copy if I ever get rid of it. But
Oh
then
yeah.
he can
Yeah.
have
So if he ever
mine
gets
and
rid
you
of it,
can
I'm
have-
upgrading.
And then you can have his. You can have his.
And someone want my
That's
first edition?
Well, that's bad. You get rid of that. Burn that one.
Right.
did you have one?
Honorable mentions, Wayne?
So I have 2 that I kind of want to own. One I really want to own, one I kind of want to own, but both of them right now are not like super cheap on Amazon. And one is Arc Nova. I kind of want a copy of it because I'm liking it more and more. I've been playing a ton on BGA. I kind of want to play it more in person to see if I really like it. But I know there's been some crazy sales where it's been like $45, whatever. So I'll wait for one of those. And then I really want a copy of Hadara. I played it again in person a week or two ago. Played it multiple times on BGA. Whenever I get a copy of Hadara, I will be getting rid of my copy of Seven Wonders.
Nice.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's a good swap out. See, you're already making room for it when you get it.
That's the.
I'm just putting games on the floor and underneath the table and on top of stuff. Like
Nice.
Nothing leaves.
All right. So
all right, let's kick this thing off.
Let's do this. Carlos, number 5. My number 5 is.
Let me ask, do y'all have them in an order? Like the one you want most is number 1?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, mine is not.
So like under my tree, if they showed up in this order, like, you know, my number 1 is like the one I'd be the most excited to have gotten.
Okay.
I'd open my eyes like, holy crap. You know, number 5 is like almost like getting a tie from the kids.
Gotcha.
You know, a nice you know, tie.
Underwear. Yeah.
All right. I'll order my list as we go then.
And the reason I say it's like a tie is because I feel like I have to have it. Like it's got to be in the collection, and it earned a spot in my collection. I'm just not willing to pay for it. But hoping somebody gives it to me.
It's like a Mandalorian tie, or like
yes, it's like yes, it's a tie, but it's a cool tie, and it's Dune Imperium / Dune Uprising. So any one of the 2 Dune worker placement / deck builder games needs to be in my collection. But again, my methodology was something I desire, but I'm not willing to fork over the money anytime soon unless I find a really good deal or I just got extra cash laying around. And that's Dune Imperium. It's 2020 title where you're really not deck building. Like, it's not the main thing you do in the game. You really want a nice, concise, tight deck and really focus on the worker placement, on getting locations to put your workers down, to do the things you need to get the resources, the spice, the money in order to get the victory points. But the new version, the Uprising version, my understanding doesn't change a lot of the game. It just kind of introduces a lot of the theme of the new film, right? Yep. It's all about the new film piece. So that's why I put the / of Imperium or Uprising. Either or, it doesn't matter. It just gets that title in my library, which I think is a spot that I'm missing. Number 5, Dune Imperium.
And I feel like Dune Imperium Uprising, what I've seen in the gameplay is it adds some new elements and it refines some of maybe what people considered as rough parts of Dune Imperium. But I wonder if you could probably get a used, like, I bet you by Dice Tower East next year, you're going to be able to get a ton of used copies of Dune Imperium with the expansions.
Yeah.
Or maybe not, because the expansion supposedly you can use them in Uprising too. But
right.
This Dune Imperium, I think, is gonna come down in price considerably. So you probably get a cheap copy of that. I have Dune Imperium with all the expansions currently. There's no way I'm buying Immortality. That's enough game for me. I don't need the
box cover don't look right.
Uprising, you mean? Yeah, Uprising, the new. Yeah. Well, I'm going to take this thing off the rails because we already agreed on an order, and I'm going to go out of order already because my number 5 is Dune Imperium Uprising. That was we have our first.
We had a crossover.
Very first one. We're already a crossover. and I'm cheating on this one because I'm calling this my expansion. Dune Imperium Uprising is not an expansion, but I'm going to consider this my expansion because it really is kind of an expansion. They've streamlined. There was Uprising. They've streamlined the gameplay. They've added again. They've kind of themed it a bit for the second movie. You've got the sandworms in this. There's supposedly an area where you can go and tame and ride the sandworms. It's the same exact worker placement kind of thing. It's the same exact resources. It's the same exact battle at the end of every round, which is some of the things I love about Dune Imperium.
Mm-hmm.
But Dune Imperium Uprising is, I just played today, actually. I played with my 2 older kids, so I got a play of this in the books. A little over 2 hours.
Going to talk about that. I was going to talk about that.
Imperium, though, not Dune Imperium Uprising, right? You haven't played Uprising.
Right. We played Dune Imperium, the first one, and I don't own Dune Imperium Uprising. That's why it's on my list. But so I'm going to tag along with Carlos. That's going to be my short version. But Dune Imperium Uprising crossover number 1, and officially Mike was next. So I'm going to let Mike go.
Yeah. Are you laughing at the picture there, Carlos?
Yes, because it's like nobody in corporate thought something was wrong with these minis.
Oh man, that's funny.
I tell you what, I am mad that I have not played Dune Imperium, and it's November. I have not played this game yet this year, and it would easily be top 5, top 3 of my games of the year because I love this game. and I'm
Yep.
so mad. I'm tempted to buy it on Steam just to play it because I haven't gotten like it's like 20. It just came out on
So
Steam. It's
good.
like $22 on Steam. It really is my favorite. This is one of there's
Oh, it's on
only one or two
Steam.
games. Yeah, it's on. It just came out on Steam like this week for like and it's like $22. I'm like,
Well, the
Yeah.
autumn sale just started today on Steam, so you might be able to get it for cheaper.
yeah, maybe. But yeah,
Yeah.
this is a great game.
But you'll miss the minis, those sandworm minis.
This is I mean, nothing beats that.
Great game. Number 5, Mike.
All right. Well, I wish you didn't cut me off because this is not my number 5.
Oh, there you go.
So my number 5 is actually it's 2 games, and when I say them, you guys will understand why. The first one is Big Top, and the other one is Ghosts of Christmas. And the reason why I say both of these games is because they are sitting in Carlos's home currently.
Oh,
And I would
I feel
really
attacked.
like to have
I feel
them.
attacked.
What's
Not
attack?
that Big Top, the other Big Top. I would really like to have these under my tree by the time Christmas rolls around, or even sooner. Just
Hey.
just saying.
Just saying.
So
Got
Big Top came out in 2023. Apparently, there's 2 Big Tops that came out in 2023. One's better than the other one, and then the other one is Ghosts of Christmas, which is a trick taker from 2019. But Big Top to me is like the perfect auction game, like bidding auction game. Like I probably will get rid of Nidavellir once I get this game. Like that would be my swap out, which would be great because Nidavellir is like 2 or 3 times the size of the box of this one. So that would be great. Yeah, I every time I get a chance to play this game, I absolutely will jump at the chance, and I just love it. And the few people that I've shown it to, like in the middle of the game, they're just like, man, this is probably one of the best bidding auction games I've ever played. And then Ghosts of Christmas, which is a trick taker. It's a trick taking game that takes place in the past, present, and future. So you can kind of like choose how you're playing your cards and what time they're actually being played. And it plays off of the, Ghosts of Christmas Past story with Ebenezer Scrooge there. You are.
He grabbed him off the shelf. He's going to open them up and play them right now.
How
Are these
dare
your
you.
copies, Mike, that Carlos
Yes,
has?
those are my
Carlos has his
copies.
balls on. Yeah.
Where are the upgraded resources? There they are. Yes. Where did you pick those up for me?
That was at Dice Tower. It was at the Dice Tower East at the All Play booth. They had them. It was pretty
Dice
inexpensive.
Yeah, I think.
But see, what we had planned on was, because Mike and I are both in the claims world, we had planned on heavy hurricanes, and that the hurricane would bring you to Florida, and we'd meet
Right.
up and be able to do the swap. So I guess at this point on Secret Santa's list is going to be shipping stuff to Mike.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could cross ship. We'll have that. You might get Lord of the Rings, and I might get my stuff.
Never cross ship.
Look at that.
So anyway,
Never
that's
cross streams.
Never cross
Yeah,
ship.
that's my number 5, Big Top and Ghosts of Christmas.
I see the motivations in how he created his list. Get Carlos to take these games out of his house.
Sooner than later. Number 5.
Okay. So
Wayne,
my
number
num-
5.
So my number 5, up until earlier today, was my number 1, and it's moved all the way down to number 5.
Oh,
Wow.
really?
And that is
Wow.
Ticket to Ride Legacy, Legends of the West. And so I love Ticket to Ride, right? I have three of the versions of the base of Ticket to Ride regular. I have Europe and I have Markland. I have all the little box ones. Love Ticket to Ride. It's a great game. It's a good entry level game, but also it's decent strategy to it. So when the Legacy came out, I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'm all in. I like it.
Well, here, I guess I'll pause here then. This is how they do it on the Dice Tower. There is a crossover. It's higher on my list.
Okay.
So
It's higher on my
I'll
list
let
as
you
well.
get deeper into it when
It's higher
when
on
it
my
gets
list as well, so this is a 3-way crossover.
a 3-way
So, yeah,
crossover.
This was one of the ones that I said was going to be a crossover. Yeah, this was.
Yeah.
I had this in my
This
head.
one-
Yes,
this
it's
one
gonna
I felt would be
it
crossover.
it almost completely fell off my list, and I was going to put Hedora at number 5, and I'm like, no, I'll switch it because Hedora I can eventually get. It's so it came out price tag $120. I'm like, ooh, that's a little pricey, right?
Yeah.
And then I've already seen sales for it down to 90, and I'm like, okay,
we're
maybe a 90. Now we're talking, but also this only came out like a month ago and it's already gone from 120 to 90. That's not a good sign, right?
But isn't 120 the MSRP though?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so,
so
yeah.
some people are gonna
Okay.
sell it cheaper than
Yeah,
that.
they're
It's-
discounting
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
It's already been discounted a few places, but so I'm interested in it. But then as I listened to some podcasts today, some other groups, some other I think Blue Peg, Pink Peg, and a couple other ones were talking about it, and they were like, okay, it's good, we enjoyed it. It didn't wow us. I got the impression that several people were like, it's not wowing us. And then they said, it's 12 games in length, so kind of Pandemic Legacy, although Pandemic Legacy was 12 to 24.
Well, if you
So-
fail,
Right.
If you fail,
You're
right,
gonna
but
fail.
You're going to fail 4 or 5
You're gonna fail
times. So
some
you're
of
going to
them,
get 15, 16 games in there.
Yeah.
And then they said the first game was only like 20 minutes long. And then each game gets longer as you build out, from East, because the first game you're just playing kind of with the East Coast. And then as you build
yeah, it's like
out,
a quarter of the board of like
Right,
the real
exactly.
base board.
Yeah, but so I'm like, all right, so the first game's 20 minutes, and the second game's 30 minutes, and the third game is 40 minutes, and then it said like the last game was like 2 hours or something like that. So I'm like, I don't, and
doesn't bother
and then
me,
I thought it doesn't really bother me either. But I kind of like, well, if it's only 12 games long and the first couple of games are only 30, 40-minute games, is it really worth $90 investment? So I was like, And then I looked at my shelf today as I was looking around. I'm like, well, I still have Pandemic Legacy Season 0 and 2 to play because we haven't played those yet. And my wife and I are still working through Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. So I'm like, well, I already have 3 kind of legacy campaign games that I'm still playing through. So I really don't need this to be my number 1 on the list. Number 5, I would like it. If I have it, it goes on my shelf. We'll play it eventually. But just it didn't seem like a lot of the podcast folks that were talking about it were like blown away by it. And so if they're not blown away by it, I want to play it and I will own it eventually. I think I could probably wait a little longer. So that's why I dropped it to number 5. But again, it's number 5 on my want to own list. So I'm still pretty hyped about it. So don't let my sort of quasi negativity. I'm just explaining why I went from 1 to 5 over the last few days for me. Yeah. So my number 5, Take a Tried Legacy.
We'll be hearing a little bit more about that in a few minutes. So, all right,
Sure. Yes.
back to you, Carlos. Number 4.
Number 4 for me. This where Wayne talked about it a little earlier. That expansion piece, like it's not something I tend to buy for myself because I tend not to use them. I'm always teaching games, so using expansions is not what happens. So having it on this list is big. So this expansion, Cascadia Landmarks, hits my number 4 spot because Cascadia is a beloved game in my house. I really do enjoy the game. Still in my top 20 list for games played in 2023. And the Landmarks seems to be a simpler way to add more of what Cascadia is and some additional endgame scoring. So for all those reasons, Cascadia Landmarks has made it to my number 4 spot because, I don't like buying expansions because I know I never use them. But if I was gifted one, if I happened to unwrap it under the tree, my excitement level would be number 4.
Nice. And it bumps it up to
This
6 players.
Yeah.
Would you really though, 6?
I think it's a quick enough game where you could. And I think they have, because I combined everything into the base box a couple of nights ago. And I think I saw some like alternative ways of playing to speed it up, like to
Simultaneous stuff.
I didn't get into all the details, but there are like quicker ways to play, and then I listed a couple of things you can do.
You're right, because
make it go
it's
faster.
not a Wingspan to begin with, right? So it's already not a long game to begin with. So when Wingspan went to Mega Wingspan, I think 7-player Wingspan, remember that? Oh,
Never
Yeah.
played that. Never in a
Nope.
million
Right.
years would I ever play
Nope. Yeah.
Wingspan that big.
Nope.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. Cascadia never started at that length of a game. So even at its current length, adding a 6-player wouldn't take it past an hour.
Yeah, I can't see it
Yeah.
going crazy long.
See, Cascadia just missed my honorable mention list because I don't own Cascadia yet. But I played it with you, Carlos. I played it Dice Aris, and I love it. But it's like I have a ton of other games I already own that are similar. It's like, where does it fit in my game collection as far as like, is it going to get played? Is a game that my wife and kid are going to play? As much when we have, 400 other games to choose from. But yeah, Cascadia is a great game. It really is good, and I probably will own this eventually. Yeah,
Yeah.
good
Agreed.
call.
Number
go back to
4
our
for Mike.
Regular rotation. Yeah, back to Mike. Our planned
Okay.
rotation.
My number 4, I would say this is probably I would definitely say this is the second hardest game on my list to actually acquire. So this is Dogs of War from 2014.
My favorite
This
designer.
was the Kickstarter only game. It might have gone through 2 Kickstarter releases. I can't recall, but I would really love this game with all the factions. I really want, I really wish they would re-release this game. And I know the designer of it might have gotten rights.
He hinted at Dogs of War coming back. I think I was going to message you when I saw that a few months ago.
Yes, and I think we might have discussed that on one of our shows.
Yeah, we talked about it.
But this is like one of those games where it probably didn't get the attention it deserved when it first came out. And man, this is like, it would have been a little bit higher on my list, but I know because of how hard it is to get and probably the amount of money it would cost to get with all the factions and everything. This is probably my current grail game, I would call it, because it's one of those it's hard to acquire. But anyway, Dogs of War is my number 4. Probably won't happen until they redo a Kickstarter for it, and it may not even be under the Dogs of War name. It might be something else.
Yeah.
But if it,
I can see it by Christmas of 2028.
Yeah,
I mean, Paulo Mori is a very popular designer, so if this is one of his games, and
Yeah.
Vassal Rule,
Vassal Rule.
It'll come back out. It'll be
should
back.
come back around.
well, I would love that.
Nice.
All right,
All right,
my number
Rob?
4. I'm going to go with probably this is the game that on my list that I probably should have owned by now, and I just again it's been accessible. I've been able to play it kind of whenever. This is a game that I'd like to just have my own copy. Just it's one of those that I just need to have in the library. Without too much suspense here, it's Brass Birmingham. I still want to play Brass Lancashire. Wayne, you got to teach us that one at some point. We've talked for a few months here about needing to get together and play that, so we got to make that happen soon. But Brass Birmingham is it's a classic now. I mean, this is what is it now on BGG? Is it number 1 right now on BGG's all
It's number 1 overall.
Number 1.
Yeah, number one. So yeah, I mean it's just a game that I
number 1.
I obviously I played it a bunch. I enjoy it. It just belongs in my library. Again, not gonna super wow me if it shows up under the tree. I would be very satisfied, very happy that I finally owned a copy. I've got a stack of poker chips in my closet from my old poker playing days, so I don't really have to go out and get the iron clays. I could just get the standard edition of this, and I've got 500 poker chips already in my clset, so I just pull those out and play with them. But this is a game I enjoy. I would never turn down a play of it. Would love to teach the kids, my 2 older kids, late teens now, how to play this and hopefully get them hooked on it so I could play it more often. But this is when Carlos has always had it, so I just always, if anytime I've wanted to play it, I've been able to just go over to his place, or several people in the group own it, so it's always been there. But this is a game that again it needs to be on my shelf somewhere, so I need to own this one at some point. So it'd be nice if it showed up under the tree. So that's my number 4.
I think we played it like at Dice Tower or something, and then I immediately ran to Armada Games when we got back, and they had a copy on the shelf, and I scooped it. Be honest with you, I was on the drive home from Dice Tower
on your
east, on my way
2 years
home,
ago,
and I stopped at Armada Games before I hit the house and scooped it up.
That's amazing.
That's how. I mean, this game has never failed us, Rob. It's never failed us in every play, win, lose. In terrible defeat or glorious win, the game has never failed.
And it's the game. This is definitely a top 3 game for me all time, and it's phenomenal. I love teaching this game. It's hard to teach sometimes. I remember trying to teach it at Dice Tower East.
I don't love teaching it.
I don't love teaching it either, because I've gone to both of you guys during Dice Series a couple of times. I went to Rob and Carlos. I'm like, hey,
I remember that.
Right?
Yep, I remember.
So it was Michelle Gallagher and a bunch of her crew were all learning the game. I think it was Diego and I'm like, guys, I just know this game well enough, but it's hard for me to like teach it. So but like what's funny is as you're teaching it, they're like, I don't know what's going on, and I'm like, just play around and you'll start to get it, and then. Like round 2, the light bulb goes off of like, oh, I get it. And then like round 3, you go, oh, this is your brain just melting. And these are really good gamers. I've taught this game to, I don't know, 15, 20, 25 people, something like that. And every time their brain just melts because it's like, I don't understand it. And then a round or so in, they go, I get it. And then like round 3 or 4, you're like, but I'm $1 short. And
one connection.
That's what I was going to say. The one thing we talked about with that game was creating a shirt that says, I can't do that, and take it back. Right? Yep. So it's like you go to do something and you're like, oh, I don't have enough coal. Let me take that back. Oh, I don't have $1. Let me take that back. Oh, that's not connected to my network. I really can't go there.
Yep.
Such a great game. It is really, really good game. Yeah, this is a great call. Love Brass. And I'll say this: the single best trailer for a board game ever was the Kickstarter release for the trailer, the Onirum whatever cat trailer they have for this. I actually still watch it every now and then because it's so good.
I've never seen it.
Yeah. He showed it to me. I remember he taled about it at one point. I went and watched it. It's awesome.
I'll message it to you later, Carlos.
Please.
It is phenomenal. It is.
Oh, that means I'm gonna have to get. It's gonna make me want to play the game. Like it's gonna make me want to get it to the table.
It will absolutely make you want to play the game.
All right. Send it.
We'll watch it together at the end. Yeah, it's good.
Number 4, Wayne.
All right, my number 4. All right, so my number 4 is not on this list. I'm gonna go with a non-board game here because I have, I don't know, 400 or something board games at this point. I'm not looking to expand my collection, but I do like Brass. I like blinged out board games, right? And I've been researching for months now. Went to panels at Dragon Con about it. Been talking to Diego and several other folks. My number 4 wish list this year is a 3D printer. I want my own 3D printer. I want
very nice.
Yes, I've got the one I want. It's a Anchor Make 3D printer. It's like a new one that works just on an app, and it's software driven, which I know Carlos probably hates, but
though when it comes to 3D printers, laser cutters, I'm okay. Like that makes sense. Yeah, audio and text, audio stuff and like video stuff, I am more hardware driven. But when it comes to like the tolerances of a 3D printer, you need software support.
Yeah, you need software support. So yeah, a 3D printer because I already have. I've been saving the file, the STL files. I think it's
STLs. Yeah.
STLs. Yeah, I've been saving STL files left and right to a portable hard drive off of BGG and Thingiverse and all these things for all my games. And I'm like, okay, once I get this printer, I'm gonna be printing, board game upgrades and storage solutions and new bits and things like that. And so, and my kid's already excited because he's like, oh, I can print this. I can do. He's already into it too. So, I think part of it is it'll be like a good learning experience for my kid and me together to get this 3D printer, and he'll print some things for him. I'll print some things for me, and just I'm enjoying that. So it's not a board game specific, but I know that over the next year, I'm going to be replacing a lot of little bits for my board games, from cardboard to little 3D printed things, and like Dune Imperium and Arnak and just, all these, So my number 4 is a 3D printer. I'm ready to, and the Anchor Make, the one that I've chosen, I got it from Diego.
I've been looking at that one.
Yeah. He said that, he had the Ender 3, which is the one I was really looking at. And he's like, I like it. It's good. It's a little fiddly here and there. The Anchor Make is really meant for newbies, people who aren't into, if you're not going to be designing all your own bits and you're just grabbing files to print, then this is the one, and the speed and good. So yeah, that's what that'll be under my tree at Christmas, hopefully. So yeah,
awesome.
I second that. And as an owner of a laser cutter, I second that with a 3D printer. What I found is with laser cutting, inserts and boxes and everything, it's so much rides on the material, the consistency of the material. You can make a design in laser cutting where it works with one material, but if you get a different supplier of wood, or if they change how they make their wood, completely changes how that comes together, and you have to redo the whole design. The idea of that 3D printing is going to give you the consistency of that PLA you're using. It's always going to come out the same as long as you go like what, I think Mike, we talked about pre-show, Mike got himself one, a 3D printer, something that's, uses lasers to level itself, all that ease. So great idea, Wayne.
Self-leathering, yeah. So Mike, you got one.
Self-level.
You got one yourself, a printer? Is that back there? All right. What did you get?
It delivered today. It's Creality K1 Max.
Okay, that was on my list too.
Yeah,
the Creality, the Ender 3,
and then the Bamboo would be the only other one that I would have recommended. Yeah.
So the Anchor Make just came out in like the last year. and they're big in like just peripherals for tech, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's very well reviewed and very
Yep.
solid and very set and forget it, which is what I want. I don't want to have to fiddle with this thing forever. I just want to grab files and print them, so.
When I was doing my research, they were saying that was like one of the best like put together models that you can buy. Like it's a definite solid build as far as quality.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
yeah, good choice, man.
Nice.
Thanks.
All right, my number three is
We do need to get a graphic for that.
Yeah.
once we get a Kickstarter with $300,000 coming in a year,
Sure.
then we can get people to do that for us.
That sounds good.
Yeah, voiceovers and all that. My number three is D100 Dungeon. D100, as in Delta 100. If you're a D&D gamer or a roleplay gamer, you should be familiar with the idea of the D100, which is a percentile system, is what it's called. So it's 2 D10s, and it runs off of percentiles. This is a self-published system by Martin Knight. It's a book. It's like a role-playing book. Rob, I think Rob would like this. I really would.
Okay.
It's a solo experience.
Okay.
In the vein of, I'll say, Frosthaven or Gloomhaven in the sense of story. Like the amount of narrative and adventure in the book
Got my
is there, but you're having to draw it all out yourself. Like you're penciling into graph paper every room you explore. So you have you're going to roll up a mission. So here's what your mission is. Here's where it's located. And then you're kind of rolling your way through a dungeon, encounters, rolling your way through monsters, baddies, and traps. All the while, you're leveling up your character, your solo character who's playing by himself, buying equipment in between dungeon delves to help you deal with light. So you buy oil. So you have resource management, right? Rope, oil, all the tropes that you're used to with fantasy to be able to play. But it's all in one book. So it's $40, right? As little as $23-24 for the PDF if you choose to. So in its basic form, you're using the book, 2 D10s, a D6, and some paper. That's it. However, of course, people have fallen in love with this game. It came out in 2017, so like right before COVID, this game came out. And when COVID hit and lockdowns happened, the community for this grew. So now it's at the point where you can buy the upgrade kit, where they're selling the kit where it's got, instead of rolling up rooms, you're flipping cards, like dungeon tiles, effectively to create the tiles of the rooms, to create the dungeon. You're flipping monsters. You have spell cards. You got tokens. You got a neoprene mat that you can use to track all the resources and hit points and everything. So it can turn into a full-on Gloomhaven solo experience board game, right, on the tabletop, or you can just play it with the book, 2 D10s, and a D6, right? It's got that wide range. So having this as a stocking stuffer or something on my under my tree would be amazing, because it's just such a simple system to get into, and it allows me to play solo. Like it's what I would want to play solo. D100 Dungeon by Martin Knight, self-published. You can find it on RPG.net or DriveThruRPG, I think it is. DriveThruRPG is the website where you can find it.
I think there's a ton of print and play for this as well. Like under
the
D100
look at that neoprene mat right there. That's what you're showing right there is the actual neoprene mat on the left. You can buy that mat. It comes with tokens. It comes with cubes for you to manage all your resources as you get through the dungeon. So it's like a fantasy final girl, like a fantasy trope.
It's got cubes.
Very cool.
It's got cubes.
Oh, yeah. Rob's excited.
First thing I see.
Can we count that as a crossover based on your last statement?
Yeah.
Rob loves it. 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10. Awesome. 2 out of 10.
Nice.
Mike,
All
you're
right,
number 3.
Mike.
My number 3 is probably one. I don't know, first or second hardest one to get on my list here. This one's pretty small. I've talked about this before in the past. 2020 release, Robo Trick. This is a 3-player only. It's all one word. Robo Trick. This is a 3-player only trick-taking game.
With a 4th player.
With a 4th player that is an AI or a robot. The robot has a card that you'll pull out and it has certain rules on it for that particular robot. So the robot gets dealt in just like everybody else, only the robot's cards are face up, and you kind of like put them up in suits, highest to lowest number. And then everybody plays around, and you're trying to basically, I think you're trying to beat the robot. I can't remember exactly how the winning condition, because I'm so enthralled with how the robots work. So like the robots will have rules on their cards. So like it'll say if it has the suit that's being set, play the highest card. If it doesn't have the suit, you're going to pick a card from, the suit that you have the least amount of cards from, and you're going to play the lowest card from this one. And it's just these different rules that the robot has to play by. And because the cards are public knowledge, even though you can't talk with each other at the table, but it's just such a cool concept to me. And it's a very small box. It's only cards. But the thing is it's Japan only release. So hopefully I'm in a couple. I've joined this group now. My friend that is huge in the trick takers, he's like, you got to join this Discord group that is like strictly trick takers. Like all these guys, they create their own trick taking games, and sometimes they do group buys, because some people like literally go to Japan and they're like, I'm going there, I'm setting up to buy like 24 of whatever copy of this, and they do group buys, and then they bring them back and disperse them. So I'm hoping that one of those happens soon for this particular game, because it's not a game that you can create like Nokosu dice. You can buy a couple of things off of Amazon and create your own game out of it. This, you'd probably have to do like a total print and play on your own. But
Hey Wayne.
Yeah.
When are you going to Japan?
Well, I think May of next year.
Ooh.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah,
So maybe it'll be
so-
under my tree next year.
Yeah. No, so I was gonna say, no, honestly, like, so yeah, my family is planning a trip to Japan. We're gonna spend 2 weeks in Japan. Hopefully right after school gets out next spring, we're gonna
Nice.
fly over there. So if there's a couple of games that you cannot get here in the States, I'll certainly look for several of them, and I plan on, like, my wife and I have already looked at like game stores in Tokyo and Kyoto and some other places.
Very
like,
cool.
because you got to do it. Like everywhere we go, we went to Great Britain, London. We went to a game store and hung out with the.
Oh, you
Warhammer
have to.
folks for a while. Yeah, you got to check out game stores in other countries. So
Yeah.
no, my whole goal is, I know there's a ton of cool games out of Japan that you can't get here in the States. So if I can get a couple back, and if they're not big, I can buy 2-3 copies and bring it back with me. So yeah,
Right. Yeah, this is very small, kind of like what's the game? The Crew, that size type of box, so you can load up a whole suitcase with these and you'll be okay,
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Make a little money on the side when you come
Michael
back.
paid a $50 check bag fee.
Yeah, there you go, extra bag.
No, this is going to be, look, I am not flying like 18 hours like in coach. Like, I'm flying.
Let me ask you may have said I might have missed it, but it's 3-player only. So you got 3 players, and then you've got a robot player. This is not cooperative though? It's every person for themselves.
I think it's everybody against the robot.
Oh, is everybody against the robot? So it is.
Yeah, and again, I don't know why it's slipping my mind. There is a win condition, but I'm not quite sure exactly what it is. I think it's because I don't think I've ever won, or our group, I don't think we've ever won against the robot. So, yeah. So anyway,
nice.
That is my number 3, Robo Trick.
All right, I'm gonna jump in with my number 3 next. Then my number 3 is it's the game on my list that again, probably I probably should have owned it by now. This is the one I was kind of waiting just to see if maybe somebody in the group would pick it up, or see if maybe I'd get it as a gift at some point. But maybe I will this year. Maybe this will be the lucky year. But a game that I played at Dice Tower. Was it last year or the year before? Anyway, Terracotta Army. I know a game that Wayne had a bad experience with. Yeah, this is a game that people have been a little mixed on. There definitely have been mixed reviews. Some people have played it and really loved it. Some people have played it and been kind of lukewarm on it. But it's a game I keep thinking about. It's a game I keep, it's like, man, this is probably one. It's not particularly expensive. I think I've seen it on sale for $40. It's got a cool little storage system for all the little minis, a little unique box that you just flip them upside upside down, the bases go up. I'll be honest with you, part of that, the desire to have it, is just that cool little storage system for all the little minis that you use. But I like this Euro. It's a fun Euro. It's a puzzly game. It's got this dial, these dials that you kind of can take on your turn. You can turn one in one direction to kind of mix up your options of abilities. When you place, you kind of do everything that's in that section. And so it's a thinky game. I really enjoyed the thinking part of it. There's the part of the mausoleum where you're placing the little warriors into. There's a separate kind of game there where you're really trying to get them into this grid, get certain types of warriors that have certain abilities to pair up or to cancel out your opponent's scoring and different things in here. As Wayne has mentioned in the past, it can be a little ruthless in the scoring. There is a little bit of whoever did the right thing in the right order is going to get a good chunk of points. There is some, second place consolation scoring and consolation prizes in it. But I really, this is one of those games that I kind of keep thinking back to every now and then. It'll pop back in my head. I'm like, man, I really probably do just need to bite the bullet and get this game and pick it up. But again, if it were to show up under the tree, that would be a nice little surprise, something I wouldn't have to run out there and get. But this is one I think I'd like to introduce more people to. I've talked it up on the show in the past, and it's one that I think I'd like to get in front of more people. For some reason, I just don't think a lot of people played it, even though when it originally came out, it got a little bit of buzz there for a couple of months. Yeah, it was a lot of hype right off the bat, but it's one of those that disappeared pretty quick, so I'm not sure what the reason for that was. But a game that I've really enjoyed. I've played it twice, and I liked it quite a bit. So Terracotta Army is going to be my number 3.
Sweet.
That's a good one. I did have a pretty negative experience with my gameplay, but what's funny is I think as time goes, so when you play a game and you have a negative experience, you just want to trash it, right? And then as time goes by, you start thinking back and you go, was it really that bad, or was it the moment, or you made the wrong decision? So it's like this is a game I would definitely play again. I would gladly play this game. It's one I don't want to own, but I remember I did like the concept of you're creating these terracotta statues, and there's you have the clay, and the clay dries versus undry, and you wet the clay. There was some cool mechanics there, and the little turnstile thing. It was unique mechanisms, not unique mechanisms. It was a unique portrayal of mechanisms that are out there, and just a cool storage experience where you're like, is it really that cool that you just take the mini and put it upside down in the box, right? It's
why is anybody doing that?
Why didn't no one else do that, right? Yeah. It was very practical. But this was a cool game, very, very traditional kind of Euro-y game. And I would definitely play it again. It's a good call as far as owning. I think the only thing I would say is like you said, Rob, is as the game had a lot of hype and has died off pretty quickly. Yeah, that's always. Is it just because too many games are coming out, or is it the game not that good? And I think it's I need to play it again to make. Yeah, I need to play it again to make a decision whether where I'm on that fence of. Did it die off too quickly because there's too many games being made and it just lost traction versus maybe my negative experience was accurate type thing. Yeah. So it was a good one. Yeah. I like it.
Sweet.
Wayne, you're number 3.
My number 3 is my expansion. And I'm going to type over here. Lost Ruins.
There you go.
Spoiler.
Yeah. We know now. We know.
2 crossovers. There we go. I got it. I called it. So my number 3 is my number 3 is the Lost Ruins of Arnak, the Missing Expedition expansion, which provides 2 new leaders, provides a solo or 2-player campaign, which playing with my wife and I, it could be good, right? So I like of the Dune Arnak battle, I prefer Dune, but I really like Arnak, and I've been playing a lot more Arnak this year than Dune even, which is interesting. I think it's just easier to get to the table probably, right? Because
it's less mean.
While I love Dune,
it hurts less.
Yeah,
it hurts less. Yeah, and I think the Dune theme, unless you're into the theme and the movie, or you're a heavy Euro gamer, it'll push you off. But this is like, hey, is Indiana Jones a board game, right? People play it. So I think I'm really looking forward to this. I like the idea of the campaign that I can bust this out with my wife and we could play the 2-player game, or I could play it solo. And so I think I want to own this because I'll play it once solo and I'll just play it a second time with her, right? So it's got replayability and it adds more content to Arnak, which is always cool. So I'm sure we're going to talk about this again because I know at least it's on someone else's list because we called it. I said 2 crossovers, so we're at 2. So my number 3 is the Lost Ruins of Arnak expansion that came out this year. The
Probably no
Missing
surprise to anybody.
Expedition.
The campaign is the reason I'm the most excited about this. Is I want to play through the story. Anything that is a game that I like, where you can turn it into a campaign and string a series of plays together, I'm all about it. So that's what I'm really wanting to get my hands on.
And I mentioned there's a free solo campaign that you can play on their website. And so I'm
cool.
interested to see if this is separate from if it's 2 different campaigns that we can play too. I haven't had a chance to play the it's like the search for missing professor. Like your professor has gone missing in the jungle, and now you're looking to find him. And you can download the app and play for free too. So I like the idea of you get this expansion, and now you get the free campaign and this 2-player campaign. So you have multiple. So anyway, that's my number
cool.
3.
Nice.
Yep.
All right, Carlos, back at you. Number 2.
We're getting to the number 2s here. These are the big ones. These are the ones where, like, if I open this under my tree, it's like, it's like squee excitement. This title, squee. Have you not squeed? You ever open something and squeed with joy? There's an ointment for that. 2002 title, Hammer of the Scots. Yes, I missed this one. Like, I just missed it. And I remember Lonnie Kitchen, buddy of ours in our gaming community, also a war gamer, has tried to get me to play Hammer of the Scots so many times. And, I kind of put it off. I have a lot of friends who have love for that European or English, civil wars, the histories of Europe. And I guess I just never had any connections to it, right? Nothing really drew me to it. Well, you know what, Wayne? That's a valid point, because with the new baby Cabrera in the house, I've been on this trip of themed movie marathons, right? Because got a little one in the house, so I got some time off work, spending time holding the kid, keeping him happy, and just watching movies. So I went through a marathon of Braveheart, Robert the Bruce, The Outlaw King, all of it about the stories of the independence wars of Ireland. Yes, and that's all Mel Gibson's famous, freedom, Braveheart scenes. And it got me watching those movies thinking, man, this would make great board games. I wonder if they make any. So then I started searching, and Hammer of the Scots came up. 2002 title by Columbia Games. It uses what Columbia calls look at that. That's not real. That's not the block from the game.
That's not the block from the game, though.
No, that's not Wallace. And it uses what Columbia calls their wooden block system. So I know William and I have played Sekigahara on the channel. It's wooden blocks where you're playing against each other, but only you see your facing. What's that old game that we used to play back as kids?
Stratego.
Oh,
Stratego-esque, where only you know what's behind the block and what power you have. So until you meet in battle, so you can see that I have a group of blocks in a certain territory. And if you want to come and fight me at that point, I have to reveal what's there. We both see what we have, and then we battle. What's cool about the battle system is every block is either an A, B, or a C in initiative. So all the A blocks will hit first, followed by the B blocks, and then followed by the C blocks. So depending on how you set up your units in each group of units that you have in a territory, you can try to strike fast and really reduce the power of the opponent's units before they strike back. So it's kind of that it's interesting. It's very interesting, and especially because the units or the blocks have 4 sides, right? So it's a square. It's a square wooden block. It has 4 sides. Depending on the unit, it'll have a number of dice it rolls based on its strength. As the unit is hit, you roll it. You literally roll it around to indicate how many dice that unit will hit back with. So you're hoping to kind of strike first, reduce the power of the unit that you're going against, so that when it's their turn, if they're the B block to hit, they're hitting with less dice. But the main game really sticks to the Game of Thronesy feel of the politics of it all. Because at the end of the day, the War of Independence really had to do with getting the favor of the nobles, all the Irish noblemen. The idea was they traded sides. Robert the Bruce was not a good guy in a sense, as in with Ireland, although he was an Irish noble, until after the defeat of William Wallace. At that point is when he turned against the English. So these nobles were all like that. They all wanted control of Ireland, so they needed the English king behind them with their support.
So, correction, Scotland. You keep saying Ireland.
Scotland.
Scotland.
English is not my first language. Thank you.
Look at the square in the bottom right corner. It's Wallace from Wallace and Gromit.
I said Ireland. Replace that with Scotland.
Yeah.
The Scottish nobles all needed the support of the English to get the throne, so they were just going back and forth against each other. So at the end of each round of the game, it all depends on your nobles and who has controls. The nobles actually come in both colors. The nobles come in red and in blue, because depending on who controls their castle at the time of winter, will get control of that noble for the next year of battling. So it's so interesting, this game. It's number 2 on my list because I love historical games, and having watched this series of movies has got me all hyped up about this whole Scottish war for independence thing. Hammer of the Scots.
Your love of these war games makes me laugh. It's a bunch of blocks, but anyway. Yeah.
Hey, but it's your name. Like, aren't you like
cubes?
Robert the
Yeah.
Bruce the Third or something?
Yeah.
I mean, the blocks are like cubes, right, Rob?
Yeah,
Yeah,
cubes.
kind of. Cut them up into smaller little chunks, make them cubes, but sure.
All right.
Dude, I've not played many of these kind of block games, but I gotta ask my buddy Andy. I used to play a Napoleon type
Napoleonics?
game. I don't think it was Napoleonics though, but it was
No?
it was the
Okay.
blocks, and as they got damaged, you turned them around, and
Columbia does have a
you put
Napoleonics
them
version.
left, right, center, and you have it was like Waterloo. I don't know. I gotta find it.
Yeah.
But it was.
It's
tell you what,
Napoleonics, I think, isn't it, Carlos? Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe it might be.
Yeah, it's Napoleonics.
I
yeah.
enjoyed it. I really enjoyed playing that game back in the day. I mean, it's
Yeah.
probably been 20 years since I played it last, but we played it a bunch in grad school, and it was fun. I mean,
Yeah, they're fun.
It was definitely a fun time. Yeah. So cool.
Sweet.
Sweet.
Mike,
All right.
you're number 2.
Mike.
My number 2. So my number 2 and number 1 are kind of like the higher ticket items, that are easily accessible, but probably a little bit more money than I'm willing to drop
What,
right
a
now.
flight to Japan would?
Well,
No.
I mean,
I'm saying.
The buddy flight to Japan win. Yeah.
So this is the one I thought I was going to have a crossover with. If there was going to be a crossover, I thought this would be the one that I would have with Carlos. So this is a 2022 release. This is Undaunted Stalingrad. This is a little pricey, but it's the Undaunted series in a, I don't want to say legacy because you can reset everything. It's campaign. Yeah. More of the campaign style of play. And the only person that I'd end up playing this with most likely is my son Matthew, because we just absolutely love Undaunted Normandy. Like it's, as you're playing and your guys have names and you're like, oh, poor so-and-so, he got picked off by, blah, blah, blah. It's just the way that the buildings in this, like the tiles over time, like that's a perfect picture right there. Over time, like as the area gets bombed, the buildings are getting destroyed and it has less and less cover for you. And I know this had a couple of dings against it because there was in between scenarios or during scenarios, you're on your side, whichever side you're playing, there can be some lengthy text that you're just reading to yourself. You're not, giving any information to the other player. But I think Matthew and I would just eat that up. Like anything to add to the story and be like, oh yeah, and then after everything is said and done, you're like, oh, during this time, this is what was going on. And, this is why I couldn't do this or, whatever the situation may be. But I would really, really like to have this game so that he and I can get like a regular game night going to get this fully played and then like reset it and then switch sides and play it that way as well. So my number 2 is Undaunted Stalingrad.
It's one I'd love to play through as well. I mean, the whole again, you get me with campaign. Carlos and I have played Normandy a handful of times,
Freaking
6, 7,
love
8,
that
9
game,
times.
man.
I loved it, and we keep talking about it. Actually, we did start at one point playing through the scenarios.
We're writing them down. We're writing all our results
Right,
down.
right.
Oh yeah.
But I don't
Yeah.
like the fact that each one you just reset to a standard beginning, and then you play to the end, and then you just record who wins. I like some consequences to carry over, and that sounds like this is what
Yeah.
you do here. Depending on what you do in one is going to carry over to the next one. You may have a handicap, you may have an advantage, you may have more troops, less troops, whatever.
Yeah.
That's me all day. I would love to play through that, do through the campaign. Make them all string together. Yeah, that sounds like a great time to me.
And I just love the deck building, how they handle deck building in this
Oh, yeah.
particular game, and initiative every round. How
Yep.
am I going to burn this really high number card because I really need to go first, or are you going to risk it and throw down a fog of war when you have the token flipped in your side?
Yep.
It's such a fun deck. This is probably one in my top 2 or 3 deck builders, like the Normandy game itself. It's way up there. Just a fun game, and even like with Normandy, there are a couple of scenarios where you're most likely just not going to win that particular scenario. It's always going to be the other side, or if you do win, it's like one of those stand-up moments. Like, I can't believe I sniped your guy from all the way across the, and I needed to roll that 0 to get that perfect shot off, and you did it. And such a good game. So anyway, number 2, Undaunted Stalingrad.
Good choice.
This would probably have made my list if I had somebody to play it with.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
Your
Like,
wife
my
wouldn't be into something like this?
No, she would not. So
Yeah.
if my and Carlos and Rob, if somebody's playing Undaunted Stalingrad, it's gonna be Carlos and Rob, right? They got their, and that's that, right? So I need another person, right? Who's I gonna play, right? Like,
Find another war gamer.
I need to find a war gamer. If my brother moved down here, like him, he comes down to visit, and we play D&D, Axis and Allies D&D or something, or not D&D, Axis and Allies D-Day, excuse me.
Yeah.
Him and I would get into this in a heartbeat. Right. So eventually sometime, he's gonna retire soon and move down here or something like that. So I've heard so many good things about this game, and just various podcasts, various people talking about, like, I think it's Rolling Dice and Taking Names. Marty, and I forget the other guy's name. He talked about, he plays it with his dad, like, who's not a gamer at all.
Oh,
and
cool.
They went through it, and he loved it. So yeah, I've heard nothing but good stories about this one. So,
I'll tell you, it's hard for me to rope Carlos into a campaign game. I mean, we've tried several, and he doesn't like that repeat. He gets kind of bored with them. So I mean, if you happen to acquire a copy, I might be available.
Okay. All right.
Just saying.
Because the only reason I won't buy it is the expense. It's such an expensive game.
Yeah.
To not finish it would be a crime.
Yeah.
If we could figure out a way to, like, buy it and play it 2-player where someone else is helping the 3 of us, kind of, I don't know, if there's
rotate in and out or something.
Rotate in and out, or just all get together and play it, and I don't know. Yeah, I'm interested in this one, definitely.
I'd be down. Yeah, cool. All right, number 2. Get to the big ones here. So my number 2 is a crossover, one we've already talked about. So this is where Ticket to Ride, Legends of the West is going to hit my list. So I am excited about this game. I think that, Wayne mentioned some of the things, that some of the games are going to be shorter. From what I hear, the mechanisms build as you go through. So the first couple, it's just going to introduce you to a couple of mechanisms. It's going to be pretty simple, pretty basic, pretty family weight, which is what Ticket to Ride is anyway, a pretty light family weight game. I'm loving the idea of this for the family. This is one I don't think I'd bring, to game day or try to get all the guys in on playing. This is one I would get. I'd play it with maybe my wife and the 2 older kids. We'd set it up 4-player, play through the 12, and I think even at $120, $10 a play to go through the 12 games, to me would be completely worth it. So not going to overdo it. I've heard I've heard what you've said, Wayne, that there is a lot of stuff in it that's not real new, that if you've played all the different versions of Ticket to Ride, they've borrowed stuff from a lot of the different versions that have come out before, the European versions, all the different things. They've kind of borrowed some mechanisms here and there. They introduce them as you go, and then they pile on each other so that by the time you get to the end, you're kind of playing with all the different mechanics and mechanisms. But I think guy would really like that. And I mentioned in a prior show that this was a game that I saw Tom reviewing and or the Dice Tower group reviewing, and my wife actually perked up, and she never perks up for when I'm sitting around watching Dice Tower videos. But Ticket to Ride is one of the few games that she likes playing. She really enjoys, and so this one's just going to be high on my list just for that reason. That I could probably really get the family into it. We could knock out the 12, right up my alley with campaign and legacy and carryover. And supposedly you have a completely working game at the end, very functional Ticket
That
to
was going to
Ride
be my
board of your own.
question. Like, do
Yeah.
you actually get to play the game after you're done with everything?
Yes, from what I've heard, absolutely.
That is a
Yep.
saving grace. Yeah, it is a playable game at the end. So
Okay, cool.
So we talked about it before, but Ticket to Ride, the Legends of the West, my number 2.
nice. It is a good call. It was my number 1 for a while, and then I thought about who would I play it with, and there are my one game guy, Kevin, my buddy, and his wife that I don't play games with every couple of months. We play Ticket to Ride all the time. Like he has the nice 10th anniversary edition, which I love.
Yeah.
This would be a game that if I bought, I'd be like, I'd bring it to him and just, I'm gonna leave this here, and I'll come over, 4 or 5 times, 6 times a year, and we'll play this first, and it'll take us a year or 2 to get through it, but we'll get through it. That. So I'm not in a rush to buy it, but yeah, this is great. Yeah,
Nice.
Cool.
All right, Wayne, you're
My
number 2.
number 1,
Oh, it's my-
Ticket
no,
to
no,
Ride.
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Oh,
Easy there.
Wayne gave up his number 2.
I gave it my number 2. Mine's gonna be pretty quick because it's a game I've talked about a bunch on the show. But I'm gonna say my number 2 is Bunny Kingdom.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
That's a surprise. You really
Yeah,
are
a
liking
little
that.
bit,
I see
yeah.
you playing it a lot on BGA.
I am playing a lot on BGA, and it's a game that I think that again I'm thinking through the lens of games that I know my wife will enjoy and my 9-year-old, soon to be 10-year-old will enjoy. And this is a game that
Nice.
just really kind of slipped through the gamer zeitgeist almost, right? And it's kind of, I think BGA is giving it a little bit of a kick, and I'm enjoying playing on BGA.
It's
And what's
fun.
funny is, yeah, that's kind of cool. Photo there. There were the bunny sitting on the board game Bunny Kingdom. But what I've learned about BGA in the last year, and it's a little tangential, is there are some games on BGA that I play a bunch, and then I'm realizing I don't need to own it ever physically. Nidavellir being one of them, right? Mike mentioned that earlier. No, I really like Nidavellir, and I played it once or twice in physical. I liked it, and I've been playing it a bunch on BGA, and I'm like, as more I play it, I go, yeah, I'm good, right? But then there's other games that I play a bunch on BGA, and I'm like, I really need to own this game. Stone Age being a good example of it, and now Bunny Kingdom being another example. It's a very simple game. It's really just you get a hand of cards, you pick 2, pass, pick 2, pass. But you're kind of building up your little kingdoms and trying to decide whether you want to go treasure or build up your fiefs or fiefs, whatever you want to call them, and how you connect all that. But it's simple enough that I think my kid and my wife will get into it, and it's cute enough because you're playing on bunnies on the board. It really just, the game hits with me in a lot of different ways that I think that this is a game that I definitely want on my shelf, because I think this is a game that gamers we can enjoy it and really start trying to meta it out and figure out all the things. But I could also put it on the table with a bunch of newbies or my wife and kid or just light game, and it's just, we can talk while we're picking and passing, right? And so it's constantly moved up my list this year of games that I really want to own that are, it's
Nice.
still in print, right? So this game's it's a fun game. Yeah. So my number 2, Bunny Kingdom.
I was going to say the photos there, it actually has some really good table presence to it. It
does.
yeah.
It gets a little crazy when that board fills up. It's a little like, whoa.
It's all drafting. Drafting
it's
is the
all
mechanic here. So you get a bunch of cards. It's like 8 cards or something. You take 2, and then you pass the rest. Then you take 2, you pass the rest, and you're filling in. There's 100 spots on the grid. And so every spot has a card for it. So you can try to draft if you draft the card for that spot, you get to put your bunny there. But there's other things going on there, as there's what parchments they call them, I think, that have things that break rules of the game. They allow you to place in spots that are just empty temporarily. They set up these camps where you can camp somewhere until somebody actually drafts that card in a later round. And if they draft it, then they kick you out of the camp or whatever. But it can allow you to connect some things to increase your scoring for a couple of rounds. So lots of neat little fun mechanics, and it really is. There's not a whole lot of rules to the game. I mean, it's really pretty light rules wise, but it is complex as far as how you draft these cards. If you like drafting, this game is great for drafting.
Yes. And it's all about how you balance, you only score based on the number of towers in your castles that are connected to an area
Mhm.
based on how many different resources you produce in that area. So if you have a bunch of bunnies in one little area and all they produce is carrots, you don't have any castles, you score 0. But if you have a castle with 3 minarets and you have a carrot and wood and fish, then it's 3 times 3 is 9 points.
Multiply, yeah.
So it's all these multipliers and
Oh,
how
very
you
cool.
bounce it out. Yeah. So it's a fun little game. I don't see it getting. I think that like Nidavellir, I'll go back to that one. I played it so many times on BGA, or not so many times, but after times it's gotten very repetitive.
Mhm.
Where I'm like, well, it's the same. You can do the same coins in the same order, most games to get the same results to move up, whatever. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like there's not enough variety there, and then the expansions are a little crazy, but that's a different story. But with Bunny Kingdom, really, you can go for a giant area of bunnies, or you can do a bunch of smaller areas, or instead of even drafting bunnies for areas, you can draw treasure cards and end of game scoring cards, and you can score a lot of points that way. So there's 3 or 4 different ways to kind of max and figure it out. But
Very
again,
cool.
it's not light rules, so it's easy to teach with a lot of different variability at the end. So yeah, my number 2 is Bunny Kingdom.
Good call. All right, now you go number 1, Carlos.
No, it's already gone. Y'all talked about it. Ticket to Ride
yeah.
Legacy.
There we go.
Oh,
Everybody
there's
else put it
one.
lower.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my number 1. Ticket to Ride
My number
Legacy.
2. I was right there with you. Number 2.
It was my number
Yeah.
1 until like earlier today. Or
But the more you talked about what you heard about it, Wayne, the more it solidified its spot on my number 1. The idea of some
Okay,
short, fast games in a legacy format to me is great. The biggest worry I have about campaign/legacy style games is the disappointment. So many games have had where you get to the end or near the end and it falls off, or the ending it's unsatisfactory. So you invested all this time, energy, effort to have a bad taste in your mouth at the end. I'm all about let's do a nice quick 12 game, less than an hour per game campaign/legacy, so the investment isn't as big on the downside, and if it's good, the reward is great. So I'm in for this. This one's not one that this is like my my Grail wishlist game because I know the price. Now I don't mean my friends have to go fly to Japan and find it for me to be able to get this game.
Easy. Jeez,
The
Louise.
price point makes this one that stretch game. Like this is the stretch. So
one
Ticket to
thing-
Ride Legacy, my number 1.
One thing that got me even a little more excited about this one is in the Dice Tower review. Tom mentioned that there wasn't a lot of big surprises. A lot of the mechanics were pulled from other versions of the game, but he did say that there was a point in this that everybody at the table. He said it kind of threw him back to the Pandemic Legacy Season 1, which had a big twist in it. There was a big twist in this one. He was like, "Oh, we did not see that coming, and that is not something we expected." And there was a decision to be made about halfway through this game that really affected. So I have no idea. I'm clueless. I don't know if you guys know what this is all
No.
about, but
Yeah,
supposedly there is.
I have several inappropriate jokes in my head, but we're after 10 o'clock, but we're not sure
Somewhere.
Yeah. But so that's got me even a little more
It's a
excited. is
shocker
that
to
there is
Tom that
something that's
people
going to happen
built
in
the
here.
railroads.
That was a twist. So I'm interested. Yeah, good call.
And really the only reason that it moved down, and I think I've said it earlier, is just I have several other campaign legacy games that I haven't gotten to, and I haven't had success getting them played in my game groups. Right?
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
So as much as I want to own this one, when is it going to get played?
Yeah.
And that's where it kind of moved down. It's still on my list though. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. All right, Mike, number 1.
Yep.
All right. Well, I am not going to be making this a 4-way crossover.
Nope.
My number 1.
But we had our 2 crossovers though. So
This
That was
is
a
true.
3-way crossover. Yeah, that was good.
You had more than I thought you guys were than what I thought we were going to have. So my number 1 is if I'm going to have this, I would really prefer to have the Kickstarter edition of it, which you could pick up. I think it's still fairly accessible on the used market. But this is a 2019 release, and this is Cthulhu Death May Die.
Oh, I almost had this one.
So
on my
close
list.
to making my list. Like
Yep,
it
mine
was
too.
there.
And the reason why I really would like the Kickstarter version is just all the different people that you can play with, all their little quirks, and that's, to me, I kick myself so much for not backing this when the first season came out. It was kind of at that point where, I had Zombicide 2 almost all in, sitting there just collecting dust, and I had Project Elite almost all in, sitting there, which I would really love to keep playing, but it's hard to find a group to play that game with. And I was just like, this is just another Simon big box, multi-box, set. I'm probably never going to play it. And I was just like, I'm tired of Cthulhu stuff, whatever. And then I passed on it, and then all the reviews started coming out for it. And I was like, you got to be flipping kidding me. Like, this is probably one of the best ones that Simon has come out with in a while as far as like this type of game. And I just freaking regret not backing this one. And season 2 came out, and I was thinking about backing that, but you couldn't get I don't think you could get any of the season 1 stuff in it. And I was just fine with the season 1. Like, I don't want the big, giant Cthulhu mini, quote unquote. But man, I want this game so freaking bad, just because of all the good, funny stories that everybody talks about, and it always coming down to the last roll or the last move, and the little quirks with all the characters that you can pick, and what happens when it just seems like a game that is so up my alley that I would probably hit the table more than not, just because of I can't wait to try and play with this particular character or this particular character. So anyway, all you guys are nodding as I'm talking, so you must have like felt similar in some way at some point. Yeah.
Rob Daviau, Eric Lang, like we should have known.
Yeah.
We should have known.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
But
loving the
I
Arkham
think-
stuff and Cthulhu.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge. I mean, my wife and I do Elder Sign and Arkham
Mansions.
Horror and Mansions of Madness, so we're all into these things. Just the price tag on this, I think, is what
Oh, yeah.
always
Yeah.
like
Yeah. And
turned me off. And it's like, does it like so? Like, I would buy this giant Kickstarter with all these minis and not paint any of them. So
Me too.
does it really?
I see nothing
you-
wrong here.
We're showing all these photos here, and all these photos are amazing, but they're all painted minis. Mine would just
Yeah.
be gray. It would be all gray, like this amazing photo with the fire and the books and the monsters, and it would just be gray. And
I'll say I have a feeling that this is one of those games that I would make room for it on my shelves specifically for this game. And I'll be honest, I don't want like all the expansions and everything. I just want the Kickstarter extras box with the base game, and I think I would be more than happy with that. And this is probably one I would pay somebody to paint for me. Like, I just have a feeling like it would hit the table that much where I would want it to have that extra table presence for me for when I do play it.
So
but
I wonder, is this in a Dice Tower East library? And if it is,
I think it
then
is.
at
I'm sure
Dice
it
Tower
is.
East next year, we could bust this out and
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would really like, and I would love to have somebody teach it to me that's into it just as much as I think I would be into it.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
be
my
a good
number
one to
one.
pre-plan, play. Yep.
Yep.
Good call. Good call. This one ran across. I know
Thank
Carlos,
you.
you said it ran across your list. It ran across my list. My number one was the other option that I had other than this. It came down to this or the other one for my big Kickstarter. Money is no object. Tons of minis game. So I'll jump to mine. My number one is going to be Oathsworn. I have actually never played Oathsworn.
Oh.
I've seen playthroughs of Oathsworn. Dan has a copy of Oathsworn and has promised over and over that when he breaks it out and finally gets that campaign together, that I'm going to be in on that. So I'm kind of waiting for that to happen someday. But Oathsworn is the big one for me. I don't own a lot of games with a lot of minis. Kind of like Wayne said, my minis go unpainted, so I don't tend to buy a whole lot of mini games. Probably partially the reason, but Oathsworn, it's got some cool mechanisms with playing cards and cooldown periods depending on how powerful the card is. You play at certain slots; you have to wait turns for it to cool down, come back into your hand to be able to use. A big campaign cooperative game where I think it's up to 4 people, each of you playing a different character, very asymmetric, have different powers. Big boss battler. You're going into these battles, but you have your overworld map where you're doing some traveling and gearing up and learning skills and things, and then you jump into these giant boss battles.
I'm trying not to look at the pictures that are coming up because I have the all-in on this. I haven't started playing it yet, and there's a lot of tuck boxes with minis in it. So
okay, all right. So
I'm looking at you guys and not the photos.
That's right. Yeah, I won't go too far into it, so we don't have to scroll too much. But yeah, this has got tons of content, tons of boxes. I've seen people with the stacks of all the Oathsworn boxes, all the stuff they've got in. The art looks cool. The setting is cool. I mean, everything about this game I like, and so this would be my money is no object if it was under the tree. It would be for my fairy godmother or whatever. But
for the ultra dry Eurogamer in our group.
Oh yeah,
damn, Rob, you love yourself a campaign.
I do love me some campaigns.
Driven.
I do. I love things linking together,
immersive.
Decisions in this one affecting your next one.
If you could get into role playing, you would be all about D&D.
I've tried. I've tried.
Yeah.
I love my dungeon crawlers, and to be honest, there's probably 4 or 5 dungeon crawlers you could have plugged into this. I mean, there's the Isofarian Guard. There's any one of those big.
Isofarian Guard is one I was interested in. Yeah,
any of those big dungeon crawlers. But Oathsworn's the one that I've been itching for probably about a year now, that I just really want to play, want to get into, and so that's it. That's my number one, Oathsworn. I don't foresee that one hitting my collection anytime soon. Like I say, especially with Dan owning it and guaranteeing me a spot in that campaign when it goes down. I'm biding my days for that. But this is a big one for me. This is probably one I'm most excited about trying out right now.
I think this would be Rob's 3 out of 10.
3 out of 10.
Close to a 3 from a 2.
Not a 2 out of 10.
3 out of 10. Yep.
3 out of 10. Nice.
Yep.
All right, Wayne.
All right, my final one is
round
one
us out here.
I could get into for like $40. But knowing who I am, I would need all of it, and that's like $400 or $500 at this point. But I'm gonna go Final Girl. Yeah,
Final Girl.
Nice.
So
Good choice.
I want to get into solo gaming. I try to solo game. I set up games all the time, and I set them up and then break them down because I just can't do it, right? And then what was funny is a couple of weeks back, we were taking. There you go.
Oh, look at Rob showing off over there.
Yeah,
just happened to be.
He's only got a couple of the sets. Yeah. We were dropping
couple of 4
off. Couple of 4. Yeah, a couple of the sets. Yeah. We were dropping my kid off at a birthday party. He was going to up in Rob knows he lives in Wesley Chapel area. There's a mall in that area, the Wiregrass Mall, and we were early, so we dropped him off at the birthday party. And we went into Barnes & Noble, and it was right around Halloween, and they had a whole Halloween selection of games, and they had the Final Girl.
I saw that display
starter box sitting there, and my wife goes, "What's this?" I go, "Oh, well, it's this game called Final Girl." And you're the final girl in the horror movie, and you're fighting the bad guy. And she's like, "Oh, that seems cool." I said, "But it's a solo only game. It's you versus the game because you're the final girl." And she was like, "Oh man, that sounds really cool. Like I could play." And these guys know my wife is a Twitch streamer. She's like, "I could play that on Twitch." I'm like, "Yeah, you could." And I'm like, in my head, I'm going, "Boop."
This was your green light, man. What are you waiting on?
Jump on it.
I might buy it for her.
This is the Homer Simpson episode when he buys Marge the bowling ball. Okay, this is that's what this is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But the problem is so that you can buy the base box that comes or most places sell the base game and then like one expansion, which is like, you get 2 Final Girls and a couple things. But in season 1, there's like 8 or 9 or 10 Final Girls boxes. 8. And now there's a season 2. Yep. And like to buy all in, not even all in, but like to buy the entire season set, it's like I don't know, $150 to $180, something like that. But then there's miniatures and
and all that good stuff.
I
don't care about that.
Box
I don't care about all that. I really just want like the season 1 package, right? So the season 1 package is like $150, and then there's a season 2 package, and it's like if I go in on this game, I want to buy at least the season 1 package, so like $150. But I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to like it, but my wife's kind of wants it. So it's up in the air. But so this was my number one because it was a game that I think if I buy it or if I don't buy it, if I get it as a present, it'll be something that my wife will play and I'll play and we can talk about it and kind of have fun with it. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to just own like the one box. I want at least a couple of the expansions. But once you buy past the the first box, you might as well buy the whole season, right? So anyway, so
I mean,
that's
you
why
might as well, right?
might as well,
Yeah.
right? It's up there. But that's kind of why it's number one on my list, because it's like I want to invest in it, but I don't. So if someone bought me like my mom or my family member bought me they got together and bought me the season 1 box, that would be a nice little box present under the Christmas tree. So yeah,
Right,
so I want
and that's that slippery slope fallacy. Like if someone else buys it for you, it's not a slippery slope. You didn't put money behind it, right? So when you put money behind it, you feel like you need to finish it. More good money behind bad money.
Try to remind me. I'll bring this over sometime. Next time we're doing a pre-show gaming, we don't have to play through it, but I'll bring it. I'll set it up. I'll just show you two how to play it. Yeah, because you guys need to see it. Both of you need to see how it plays. It's really cool.
You enjoy it, and now you have it. You've enjoyed it. How much you've actually played it, though?
I have not played it a bunch. I was just talking to Carlos, I think not too long ago, about this. One of the surprising things, and you can see from some of these pictures, it is a table hog. You would kind of not expect that in a little single player game, but you've got like 4 or 5 little boards you've got to set up, and you've got a little market that you have to set out with cards, and you rotate cards to this market. So there is a fair amount of table space, and that's one of the things when I want to play, and I'm like, hey, I'm solo, I want to get a game in, I've got 30 or 45 minutes before I have to do something with the kids or whatever. It's going to take me 15 minutes to set this up and then 30 or 45 minutes to play it. And so that's the thing that keeps drawing me back on this is, again, right, you can see right there, all the little boards, they're all modular. They have magnets, attach them to the main box. And so there's a front cover magnet, you pull it off. There's a back cover magnet, you pull it off. There's components inside the box. There's, depending on which good guy, final girl you're playing and which bad guy you're playing, because you can mix and match all of them. You have to set up extra components and extra things. You have to grab that guy's cards and this girl's cards and shuffle them together and do different things. And so the setup is surprising for a solo player game. And I guess solo player games, by and large, are getting to be bigger and bigger. I'm seeing a lot of these solo games. What was the one GMT just did? The race for the presidency
Mr.
or whatever?
President,
it takes the whole table.
Not just the whole table. It takes 2 4x4 tables.
So these solo single player games are getting bigger, which is good and bad. I do like the depth of the experience that you're able to get now in single player games and solo games. And this one gives you tons of theme, tons of fun, so different depending on the girl that you play and the bad guy that you're playing against. They're so different. It gives you so many different experiences.
And here's where I'll go even crazier. And sorry for cutting you off, Mike.
No, go ahead.
I remember Joey Evans on the Dice Tower talking about how he loves Final Girl, but he actually bought 2 copies because he'll play side by side with his wife.
Yep.
And he'll play the same Final Girl in the same area to see like
how they play differently,
and like how cool of an experience was to see like you're playing a solo game, but you're playing side by side, and you can kind of see different thought patterns and different like how you problem solve versus how your wife problem solves. But that's a whole nother level of expense that I'm not willing to
2 copies of everything.
No, too much. But maybe 2 copies of like one
scenario,
Final Girl and scenario, whatever. But sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. I was gonna say, like, talking about solo games. For me, part of the excitement for me in board games is sharing that experience with people at the table.
Yeah.
So, and I think there are a lot of people that feel this way that I do. It's very hard for me to get solo games to the table. And the few times that I have, even though they're games that I really am looking forward to playing, like the other night, I think just a couple of nights ago, was the first time in a very long time that I broke out a solo only game, Spires and Hildegard, which I've had Kickstarter delivery on it. Never got it to the table. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to play. My wife's watching TV. I'm just going to bust it out on the coffee table and get a few rounds in. Very quick to set up, and the rules are pretty, straightforward, very similar to the first edition Spires In. But it was kind of like it's like a story based, type of game, and you're chucking dice and fighting people, and it's like, okay, you flip to this card, and I'm like reading it to myself, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of, in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's cool, and then, oh, this is kind of neat. You set these 2 cards up like this, and you're chucking dice, but it's like you're just there by yourself. Even though my wife is right next to me, I couldn't say, "Oh, check this out" to her, because she's not paying attention to what I'm playing, and it's So I have, and I'm going to comment on this later on, but like I have the entire series one of this. I backed it on Kickstarter. I got all the little extras. I got the storage box that looks like the VCR with the map, the mats in it. I still have not gotten it to the table. And this is one that if I had a solo game in my collection, that if I had the time that I really want to get to the table, this is the one that I want to get to the table the most. Okay. And I would like to just play through all the different, not necessarily all the different combinations, but at least all the bad guys and try out all the final girls. And then when I'm done with it, it's up for grabs. That's basically, you guys were talking about, you said Oathsworn, and then you also said Ice of Firing Guard. And I'm like, yep, I got that game just sitting there waiting to be played. Yep, I've got that game just waiting to be played. Yeah. And I'm like, I can make so much shelf space if I could just get these freaking games to the table and finished, because it's probably the type of game I wouldn't play through more than once, like Ice of Firing Guard, even though I think there are different endings per game, and same thing with Oathsworn. But like, I would just be happy to play it through once. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm satisfied. Let me get rid of these games and make more shelf space. So just keep that in mind. Hang in there, guys. You might have games, making a trip cross country with me, next storm or something. So
and that was my biggest thought process is now that there's season 2 out and
season
like season 3 is going to come.
Yeah.
My guess is there are going to be people who play this game to death, where they try to play every combination and they'll play it multiple times, and then there are people who are going to play through it once and then look to resell it. So, like, my goal or hope is, I might not get this for Christmas, but maybe by Dice Tower East next year, I could probably pick this up used. Pick up most of it.
I think you would be able to.
I do. I know that when your turn had their sort of closing flea market, there was a bunch of these.
Yeah.
And I really should have just grabbed them all, and I didn't, and it kind of pissed me off. It kind of pisses me off that I didn't just pull the trigger. But again, I think you're with you, Mike. This is one where I want to play through once and be done, because it is really hard for me to play one. I've set up Dune Imperium at least 2 or 3 times this year.
Solo.
To solo. And I'm like, I'll set it up. And then after I get it set up and I pull up the app and I start getting ready to play it, I'm just like,
it's setup fatigue. Fatigue.
I put it back together. I should just leave it set up so it's ready to go. But I'm with you though. It's like, I try to be a solo gamer, but I can't, I'm not really a solo gamer, because the social thing of it is what makes me a gamer.
Yeah.
But I think this might be the one that I could play probably if I get to it.
And I keep telling myself, "Oh, you're a solo gamer. You would enjoy this. You just need to get it to you would." And then you're picking up this game and picking up this game, and then they just never get to the table.
It's funny you say about the setup. First couple times I played this, the very first time I played it, I took it out, I set it all up. Again, it took longer than I expected. Read through the rules a couple times, and then I left it. I was able to leave it on the table, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to play this tonight. And then I played it the next night, and I'm happy I did, because I really enjoyed the experience. The second time I played it was the same kind of thing. I think I set it up early in the day, was planning to try to set it up and play it, just ran out of time after the setup and all that, and then refreshing myself on the rules. I left it. It was a day or two later I came back and actually played it. Was happy I played it again. Actually, I beat my first bad guy the second play. One little cool thing, and it's real small, but there's a little reward. So each of the final girls have a little sealed envelope, and when you beat the bad guy for the first time, or I'm sorry, the bad guys have an envelope or whatever. When you beat the bad guy, or no, actually, it is the final girl.
It's per final girl, yeah.
Final girl. When you beat them, you get to open the envelope, and I don't think I'm going to spoil anything, but the first one was it was a special weapon that applied to that special final girl. So now anytime I play that final girl, I can shuffle her special weapon into the deck of discoverables, and so that's always going to be in the deck from now on. And so it gives you a little motivation to beat each
play
of
that
the
girl.
Play her and beat each.
I didn't know that. That's pretty neat. Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Now, Carlos, of the 4 of us, you probably played the most games solo. How do you?
No.
No.
Dude, you bust out the war games all the time by yourself. I mean,
talk about
I guess they're not solo specific. I don't think I own any actual one-player games.
But you play more solo games than the 3 of us, probably.
Yeah, a lot more two-handed, because with wargaming, you have to kind of run the game yourself against yourself to understand it. So yes, a lot of. But this is why D100 showed up on my list, my wish list. Is like I want a dedicated solo game, not a two-handed, 2-player game. Not playing it solo. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's why the Arnak expansion that you put on your list, Wayne, is so high on my desire list as well because of the solo campaign. That solo system is great. And you're right, I was playing some solo modes. I do have the solo reinforcements for Undaunted, another great ad by Mike on the list. And then I was playing Caesar's Caesar Hail Rome or Take Rome, Seize Rome in 20 minutes or less. That's got a great solo system. I was just playing that. And the Blitzkrieg solo. Yeah, okay, so I do play
I was
war
gonna
games
say,
solo.
you're like the 2 out of 10 with Rob. This is a great game, 2 out of 10. You're like, I don't play solo, but I've got this, and I've been playing
I
that.
played more solo games in the last month than anything.
Because Rob won't play war games.
But several of the ones you just mentioned seemed to be faster games, like games you could play pretty quickly. Yeah.
Because setup fatigue. Back to setup fatigue. If it takes
thing.
too long to set up the game for a solo, after reading the manual and getting it all set up, I don't have the other person as that driving energy to help. All right, now let's chuck some dice.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Got to set it up and just leave it there overnight and then play it. That's what I got to do is next time I bust out a solo game and I set it up and then I go, don't pack it back up. Just leave it out.
Just leave it out.
Come back to it. Yeah. So very cool.
Cool.
That's been our favorite solo games. No. That was our top 5 wish list games for the holidays. We will be back the week after. I think November 30th is the next Thursday that we have.
That's right.
Nick Oben should be coming over to teach apiary. So we should be getting to play apiary. So I don't know, Wayne, what your schedule's like. I think, Rob, you sound like you're in.
Wanted to be there. Yep.
Yep. So
if you got room for 4, I'm there. I'll figure it out.
We have a table and there are 4 chairs. We will figure it out.
I'm jealous.
Sign me up.
So we'll get apiary in and give you the beans on that one. But what we do is every Thursday night, mail him.
Mail me, Final Girl, mail Rob.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not mailing those Sworn or
Isofarian
Guard, man. Okay. Isofarian Guard is literally over 40 pounds in one box.
Crazy.
How'd you get that one home? Was it in the topper on the way back?
No, that was a Kickstarter that was delivered here.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
luckily.
Yeah, no, man.
I remember you like specifically picked up a topper for your car when you left Florida last time to haul a whole bunch of games back to
well, it
Washington.
was a Black Friday sale too, so and we've both my wife and I have always wanted one for carrying other extra shit around, so yeah,
like board games, lots of board games.
I'll have plenty of room when I drive down there, man.
Nothing wrong with that.
I hope you all are enjoying your Thanksgiving. We thank you so much for listening, for watching. Join us every Thursday night where we take your phone calls. So November 30th, we'll be back on, hopefully give you the beans on apiary and take your phone calls to hear about what's on your wish list, what you're wishing for the holidays to get. Tell us why we're wrong. That's the best part of the show. You get to call in and tell us why we're wrong. I'm Carlos.
I'm Rob.
Mike.
I'm Wayne.
And we're the Beans and Dice Podcast, a podcast about
how we game.
Thanks for watching the Beans
Thanks
and
for listening,
Dice
everybody.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't forget to
Go
like
back to
and
your
subscribe.
religious and political discussions with your family.
Eat more turkey.
God bless Thanksgiving.
Nice. Good one.
And